For today's recipe, we are going to make one of the Asians' popular favorite, and that is rice noodles. Okay? I'm sure that most Filipinos, when they see these ingredients I have here, they know exactly where I'm going with this. Okay, so we're going to make a dish called Pansit, or rice noodles, sauteed with vegetables that I have here. I have cabbage. We won't be using all of this cabbage. This is a very big head of cabbage. And probably half of this onion. About 2 or 3 cloves of this garlic. And carrots. Green onions. And celery. And back here I have chopped pork. To season that, I will be using some soy sauce and of course salt and pepper. So let me go ahead and prep all these ingredients and I'll get back with you. So here are our ingredients. This dish really requires a little more time just with the preparation, but the actual cooking process is actually quite simple and quick. Now we have everything cut up, chopped, julienne, however you want it. And okay, so let's review our ingredients again. I have celery here, carrots, cabbage, garlic, onion, green onions, pork, and 2 cups of chicken broth. We're going to use a little bit of this olive oil to saute the ingredients, and to season the rest of the ingredients, we are going to use some of the soy sauce, and naturally for adjustment of flavor, salt and pepper. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start by adding our garlic to the warm oil, and we are going to saute this lightly until it starts to turn golden brown. And here's a break to my sequence. I normally start with all of the aromatic whenever I saute my meat, but today I am going to just bring the garlic to a golden brown consistency right there. As you can see, it's starting to turn golden brown. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add my pork. I'm going to season it with some fresh cracked pepper, lots of cracked pepper. I'm actually going to put this aside just in case I might have to add a little more later on. And approximately, here's my measuring spoon, about a teaspoon of salt for now. Give it a stir. Now I'm going to let this saute. Give it a chance to render the, excuse me. I'm going to give it a chance to brown and render the fat so that the meat could release its flavor. And I'm going to add about a drop or 2 of the chicken broth to give it something to start with. And I cover it and put it on low. So we're going to let the meat saute and allow it to render some of the fat. And then we're going to add a little more water in it so that it could continue cooking until it's nice and tender. Okay. Okay. As you can see, the meat released some of its juices and fat is starting to render. So what I'm going to do now is add about half a cup of water and just let it boil until it's very nice and tender. And this water should be almost completely absorbed by the meat. Okay, and I'm gonna keep it at number 5, which is okay. So let's push the meat aside, and as you can see, it's the fat is rendered, and now we are going to add our onion. Don't allow it to dry completely. There should be a little bit more of that meat juice in there. And we're going to add our onion, saute it lightly, and mix it with the meat. And I cover it again, give it a little chance to continue cooking. Okay. Sizzling nicely, and the onion is translucent. Now we're going to add the next ingredient, soy sauce. I will say here I am with my measuring, 1 to 2 tablespoons of soy sauce according to your taste. I'll add a little more cracked pepper, and I'm going to give it a taste and see if we have just the right amount or we have enough seasoning. This is how I really cook, folks. I don't do much measuring. I put the ingredients together and test it along the way as I cook. Now let me see if I can find a small piece of meat just to see. And obviously the meat is tender enough, so I'm gonna taste it. Okay, I will add probably half a teaspoon of salt and I'm going to go ahead and add the carrots. Lower the heat. I'm putting it on number 3, which is a low setting, because at this point I'm going to let it cook nice and slow with the vegetable, and the meat will just keep on getting more tender as it cooks along with the vegetables. If you look at the bottom right there, you could see that the meat juice is caramelizing. which is really a very, very good thing to happen, because now we are intensifying the flavor. And I'm going to add a little bit of the chicken broth just to prevent it from sticking and burning. Okay, now we have a little moisture in there. I'll give it a little time to continue cooking. And okay, let's try how tender the carrot is. The carrot shouldn't be very tender. It should be al dente, you know, slightly crisp. And that's exactly how it is right now. I'm adding celery. I don't know if you noticed, but anyway, I have to change the battery. It died on me. So now I'm starting all over again. I had to turn this up to make sure I don't ruin the recipe. And what I was saying at first was that when you first test it for seasoning and you find it just right, that'll be for what's there. But now we added celery, and therefore each time you add any ingredients, or especially vegetable, you are diluting the flavor of your seasoning. So I'm going to add probably just a pinch of salt to season the celery. Okay, and I'm going to give it a stir. Okay, I got it on high, so now I'm going to lower it. I forgot that I have it on high. That's one thing about videoing your cooking. You forget your setting once something goes wrong, such as battery dying. So I have this on high, and it was almost drying up, but it's still just fine. Now the next ingredient is cabbage. Oops, getting clumsy now. Okay, a little bit of salt to season the cabbage. Just sprinkle that in there so you don't put too much. Something about cabbage that almost always calls for some black pepper. Okay. Okay. Now I will not be stirring it too much because I want the meat to stay at the bottom and get a direct heat. And now I'm going to add my 2 cups of broth in there, and I'm going to add my noodles straight from the package. I normally would soak it first, but this is the type that you don't have to soak or blanch. Okay, now cover that. I'm putting it on number 8 high so that the broth I put in there starts boiling. Okay, now I am probably making it a lot more complicated than it really is, but the reason for this very, very descriptive instruction is that the last time my son was here, he asked me to make some pancit, which naturally most of our children would miss our cooking, and he would like to know how to make it, asking for the recipe and all. And I told him that I will be posting it on video, that way he could follow it. Now hopefully I could tell him that the video is up and he can follow it so that he could make his rice noodle, or him and his wife could make it. So it's really is not that complicated. It's just me making it more harder than it really is. But okay, so the broth is boiling. We're going to lower this to medium heat, around 5. Okay, so now, as you can see, the noodles has pretty much absorbed the broth, and there's very little left in there, probably about 2 tablespoons more or less. I'm going to turn it off now because the residual heat will continue cooking this, and the noodle will continue cooking and absorb all of the chicken broth that we added into this. So the next and the last ingredients, which I always put last, is the green onion. Give it a light toss, and let me show you how the noodle look. There it is. It will continue absorbing the broth, and the heat is off. And as you can hear, it's sizzling because it's actually drying up. And that's all there is, folks. It's not that tedious, but I decided to give you a lot of instruction for my son's sake, who would like to try and make it for himself. Let's come close, and there it is. Okay, rice noodles with all the vegetables.